Hey, podcast family. Welcome. This is Jeff K bringing you another amazing, inspiring podcast. Today we have Sandra Kavanaugh, who is a creativity expert, author of the book Spontaneous Brilliance. And she helps you with creativity and brings out the creativity in you. So with that, Sandra, I'll give it to you.
Well, thank you. Well, I'll just let people know that I am a 35-year veteran of the entertainment industry. I've been pretty much everything in theater and a lot of things in film and television. I started out as an actor a long time ago in the 1980s in New York and London, and then became a teacher of acting and improvisation, and a writer, a playwright, screenwriter, and a director, and then began teaching all over the country at universities and conservatories. And I've directed in professional theater, run a professional theater company, run several film companies, and really been an entrepreneur and a creator in my own right. And eventually, I used to always tell my acting students, in acting as in life, this is true. In improv as in life, this is true. And then one day, I heard myself and went, maybe Shakespeare's line that all the world's a stage is not just a pretty piece of poetry, but it's a metaphorical, metaphysical guide to life. And
you could basically be, you could run your own TV show. You wouldn't need anybody else.
Well, yeah, you always need other people with you, but yeah,
well, you can be a quick change artist and go from part to part to part.
That's right. Run around.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. But so I had worked with a lot of kids with special needs over the years, and I came to believe that that everyone is a genius, because I found that no matter what their age, education, or perceived ability, that everybody, every single human being has some unique creative genius that they have to share. And it's not that we don't have a planet of unique creative geniuses, it's that we don't listen to them. We don't take it in. We don't accept those offers and find out what they have to say to us. We just believe that if genius doesn't come in this box, that it's not genius.
Now, I got a quick question.
Yeah.
Yes, and I believe you 100%. But doesn't it take someone, unless you're very skilled, to find your creative genius? Because there's so many avenues that people are gifted with, or maybe you don't even know your gift.
Right. I have a little program called, Finding Your Bliss, and several people have asked me, how do I follow my bliss, which is that thing that's out there, the Joseph Campbell line, which I'm a huge Joseph Campbell fan, but he always said, follow your bliss. And people are like, how do I follow my bliss if I don't even know what it is? If everybody's supposed to have a passion, I don't know what. And so, yeah, it's a little process of really recognizing what you love and what you really want. Most of us tell ourselves we can't have that big desire, and what I always tell my clients and my students is, the universe didn't give you that desire. You weren't born with that desire because you were meant to have a life of frustration. You're born with that desire as inspiration to move you toward the reason why you came to this planet in the first place. And I thought when in the 1980s, I thought my passion was acting. I thought I was going to be in the 1970s, especially. I thought my life is I'm going to be a professional actor. Thank you very much. And then I directed and I was like, that's my passion. And then I wrote and then I was like, and that. And then I taught and I was like, oh my God, this is what I want to do. So I was doing all those things all the time. And then I became a mother. And then I was like, whoa, that's my passion. Then I adopted kids with severe special needs. And I was like, well, that's my passion. And then and so your passion evolves and culminates at some point for some of us young, for some of us late in life, that it all culminates into the grand passion, what I call the grand passion. When we connect all those dots, me being in theater, me being creative in all these ways, me being a teacher, me being a mom, me being a spiritual seeker myself, me being me being an entrepreneur, all these different things culminated into what has now become 12 years of coaching and consulting and helping other people recognize and express their unique creative genius. And it's not just one, it's an evolving process.
So in essence, life's a journey to get to your dream.
Absolutely. Absolutely. We treat life like it's a pre-written story. When I hear people say, oh, I guess that wasn't meant to be. That always seems a little sad to me, because when I teach people that anything that works on the stage, right, for a good rule for a good performance on the stage, works for a good rule for a performance on the great stage of life. And so the fundamental first thing I teach people is that life is a 24/7 improv by definition. And so there are only three things you're ever doing in an improv. You're either making an offer into the world, which is any thought, word, or deed that you add to the circumstance. You're accepting an offer, which means acknowledging it and letting it be a part of the reality, or you're blocking an offer. So offering, accepting, blocking, that's it. Okay. So in life, same thing's true. There are only three things you're doing in the improvisation that is life. You are either offering, you're accepting, or you're blocking. Most of us live our lives thinking that, oh, if that didn't happen, that obstacle is a block, right? That's a block. That's the universe blocking me. That's the universe saying no, right? But the universe never blocks. Everything that shows up in our life is an offer. And we have complete 100% what I call responsibility with a little hyphen in the middle, right? Responsibility is two words to me, right? We have the ability to respond. We have the ability to, an improv, a great improv teacher, Viola Spolin, originated this game called Yes and it's a thing now in all kinds of corporate workshops, and everywhere in the world, people talk about yes and in improvisation, right? And it's just a game that she developed to help people learn to accept and then offer. So when someone makes an offer, instead of blocking it, you say yes, and you add to that, right? I have all kinds of corporate clients and business clients that will call me and say, okay, I need a little coaching for a minute. I have no idea how to yes and this situation, but it's all about just saying, when someone brings you something or life brings you something that seems like the universe, God, the God of your understanding, however, you see source, however you phrase it and view it in your life. When you view that as the universe saying no, when you think that the universe is blocking, remember that the universe only offers. It only provides you the resources to have the experience that you are to have.
So are you basically talking the law of attraction?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, the law of attraction is part of it, but it's also about being a conscious creator, recognizing that we are creating 24/7, whether we notice it or not, whether we are doing it consciously or not. We are not only the player and the character. So I look at it all metaphorically in terms of the stage, right? The soul is the player that is here playing the character that is the person we perceive as us, right? But
Right?
we're not, and a lot of us, we think, okay, the playwright then is the universe, is God, right? But oh, no, no, no. We are the playwright. We are writing our own story. We are writing this story as we are living it, because we are deciding what comes next, what doesn't, how we perceive the point of view on everything.
Hence, we are
But
given
then,
free will.
right? What?
Hence, we are given free will.
Exactly. And we're making choices and we're writing this story. Then people think, okay, then we're the director. Oh, no, 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 no. Because the director is that person in a production that holds the vision, that unites all the pieces and heads toward that production, that goal, right? And so people think, okay, that's the role of the universe. Well, no, we're the director. We have to identify our vision. Any production that has a director that doesn't have a clear vision wanders all over the place. Same in life. We have to have a clear vision and head ourselves toward the production. What the universe is the producer. The producer in a production is that entity, that person that provides the resources to bring that production to fruition, right? And there isn't a theater company on the planet that wouldn't give their right arm to have a producer that says, sure, I'll give you anything you want. You can do any production you want. You can do whatever. You can have a tragedy, or you can have a comedy, or you can have the greatest drama ever, or you can have this great transcendent experience story, whatever. I'll give you the stuff. And that's what the producer, the universe, is doing. It never blocks. It only gives. And so where we misstep is when we think that an obstacle is a sign to not do something. You know, a lot of us stop because something is challenging. But think about it. If we're a character here that is playing, we're playing this role, our soul is playing this role, and we're here in this character. Characters that we want to play in, say, a video game, they have challenges. They have obstacles. They have to overcome things. Characters that actors want to play, characters that we want to see on the movie screen or on the stage, they're struggling with things. They're overcoming, they're transcending. That's part of our experience that helps us to grow. That's what the soul is here to experience through us. And so if we avoid those things, or we think that they're a reason to stop and sit on the couch and eat Cheetos and watch somebody else have an interesting life, then we're missing the whole point. We have to embrace the obstacles in our life and look at them as offers.
Or opportunities.
Opportunities, absolutely. Absolutely.
In a past life, going back about 20 years, just seems like a past life, I was an international project manager. And I was given the task, or I asked the task, to implement things in Mexico, which is, at the time, was one of the hardest things to do. And that's why I took it, because everybody said it couldn't be done.
Well, and that's one of those experiences that you embraced, right?
Yeah.
And it doesn't mean, even when, people are thinking oftentimes that I work with, that deciding to change tracks, or deciding to change direction, or deciding to mutate or mold something into something else, that's somehow a failure, because the original thought didn't pan out exactly as they thought it. But improvisation is what life is. And improvisation is a process of building. It's a process of offering and accepting, and offering and accepting, and offering and accepting. So when we are building our lives, we're writing our story, we're creating this whole spectrum of existence for ourselves. We aren't failing. We're offering, and then accepting what comes, making another offer, accepting what comes. But it's in improv, the problem comes when you get attached to the outcome. When you want to push it in some specific way, that's when improvisation becomes a problem. When it's about pushing and pushing and pushing and pushing and pushing until you reach X thing, that's where people get, heart attacks and stress, and feel frustration every day, and wake up thinking, why is this happening to me? And, really can't understand it. It's because they're attached to the outcome, not the process. And, I'm sure you've heard the prayer, this or something better. It's like, we know what we think we want, right? But we aren't imagining it in the greatest fashion that it can turn out, once others have had a chance to offer into that process too. Life is collaborative.
That reminds me of Thomas Edison.
Yes.
He didn't fail 999 times inventing the light bulb.
Right.
He just figured out 999 ways not to do it.
That's it. That is it. We get inspiration, we get desire to carry us down a certain road, and if we listen to those intuitions, and we listen to those inspirations, and we follow them, and they're connected to our heart, every thought is not a gem, but the gem is in there. And that's when we connect that thought with our heart, and we move forward on that one. And then we are accepting what's coming. We're noticing what's coming, and we're building on it. I wrote Spontaneous Brilliance based on two metaphors. And one I already mentioned, the Shakespeare line from As You Like It, that all the world's a stage and all the men and women merely players. But the first metaphor that I bring up in the book is Einstein's quote that everyone is a genius, but if you ask a fish to climb a tree, it'll spend its entire life thinking it's stupid. We don't acknowledge that each person, the subtitle of Spontaneous Brilliance is Unleash the Power of Your Unique Creative Genius. That's yours. That's your thing. Everyone is brilliant in something, in their thing. And it's not just like you say, you're brilliant at this one little speck on the spectrum. It's broad. It's an amalgam of things where our genius gets its expression. I've seen so many kids with cognitive disabilities that people, their expectation is, we have to get them through the system. They've got their IEP. They're supposed to do these certain things, and then we can turn them over to somebody else's responsibility when they hit 18. And, and I've walked into those circumstances and said, hey, how about you let me teach your class to improvise? And like, in this one case where I was really cocky, I had a residency pre-set up, walked into this teacher who was the head of the special needs for an entire school district. And she had a class of some pretty severely disabled kids. And she, I just said, hey, I've got this residency. I want to come in, teach your kids to improvise, teach them to write. And then I'm going to have them submit plays to the Kennedy Center's contest. And she was like, okay, hang on a second, Sparky. These kids don't even talk to each other. They're not going to talk to you. They are not going to improvise. They have never written, most of them, more than a paragraph in their entire school career. They are not going to write a play. It can't be done. And I was like, okay, but can I try? And she's like, all right, well, I could use a break, every morning for an hour and a half. So yeah, you can have them. Okay. So I did teach them to improvise. I did teach them to develop characters and understand what they were doing. I did have scribes come in who sat silent for sometimes 5 minutes before one boy in particular with a seizure disorder. He would tell me that he didn't want to imagine because it hurt too much. And what I found out that meant was, no, the world didn't wait for him to actually imagine and then get it out. Somebody was trying to help him and always substituting their idea for his. I would ask the class a question and I would have these, special ed scribes that would wait for, maybe 60 seconds for him to answer and write it down. And then they'd go, she asked what color the character's eyes are. How about green? And then he would just go, but that wasn't what he was going to do. And when this kid actually got a scribe who just sat and waited for however long she had to wait and then wrote down exactly what he said, that kid wrote a 7-page post-apocalyptic tale of this little boy named Tom who was living in a tent city that for 2 days looked like it didn't make sense on the page. And then by the end of it, I was like, oh my goodness. And he learned to not block. He really learned to not block. Like this kid, people didn't think he could really speak. And I mean, this is a high school senior that people didn't think could really talk in complete sentences. And so much so that after we'd been improvising for a couple of months, I walked into the class one day to do my thing and the teacher was there. The kids hadn't gotten back yet. And the teacher goes, I'm just going to call him Peter. Peter's mom called. And then I was like, uh-oh, I'm in trouble. Because I'd had these kids doing some radical stuff. And I was like, yeah. And she goes, yeah, this is a really involved mom. And she called up wanting to know what the heck was going on here. And I'm like, okay. She goes, well, see, they are a super, super tight family. And he's got a couple of younger siblings. And every night they sit down at the dinner table and they go, what did you learn today? And everybody, shares. And when we get around the table to him, he'd go, but, and wouldn't say anything. And so she said that this one night, they went around the table and he was last. And she was like, so Peter, what did you learn today? And he goes, whoa, no, wait a minute. That would be blocking. And then he proceeded to tell them what he'd learned that day. And she was like calling up going, what is blocking? What is this? What do we talk? How do I talk? How do I use that? And so I wound up teaching the parents a workshop in offering, accepting, and blocking. Because when he had done that first in class, I'd gotten all the kids up and we had the big circle and I was having them tell a 1 word at a time story, just getting them used to the idea. And we had this story going around this circle with, we had Morgan Freeman and monkeys on a motorcycle being chased by police on the moon. This story that we were creating totally improvisationally. We're zooming around this circle. And every time somebody added something, as I was teaching them to offer, right? And not judge their thoughts, just throw it out there, because we all have spontaneous thoughts and we judge them and we cut them off before we get them out there. So that's what this game was about. And this was literally the first day working with these kids. And I'm going around, and every time they'd add something, I would go back to the beginning of the story and tell the whole thing, And I saw him coming. I saw Peter coming, and I knew he was going to be like not helpful. So I could see him coming in this circle, and I'm going around, and I tell the whole story, and I go, and point at him, and he goes, what? And I was like, you guys, that was brilliant. And everybody in the circle is looking at me like I've got 3 heads, including him. And I'm like, that was amazing. Okay. You know how I was talking about blocking? Peter is a master blocker. That was brilliant. And I'm like, so from now on, Peter is going to be our master blocker. He's going to teach us how to block. And I'm like, what happened when we went around? And he said, what happened? What happened? And everybody started talking about that. And I was like, I just kept saying, Peter, you are so brilliant. Thank you for demonstrating that like that. And he, you could see behind this kid was aware. He knew what he was doing, and he thought he was shutting me down. But when I turned it into an asset, it gave him permission to be brilliant at that. And that's what translated a couple months later into his parents going, what's blocking? And he could learn to choose not to do it, and recognize that there were beautiful experiences coming to him when he quit being quite the smart aleck. I'll use the word aleck. That when he quit being such a smarty pants and shutting everything down, because that was the one thing he had control over, is he could get people to just shut up and leave him alone. And instead he started really participating.
What an amazing story.
Yeah. It's, and I have the same experiences with CEOs and writers and just people who come from all different walks of life who want to do something, but they're kind of afraid to, I mean, my clients are everything from parents to teachers to students with extraordinary, cognitive challenges, as I said, or CEOs, entrepreneurs, business leaders, attorneys. I work with a lot of attorneys, which is an interesting thing. But just, it doesn't matter what the group is or what their expected limitations are. Everybody views themselves in terms of, well, almost everybody tends to view themselves in terms of their limitations, in terms of what they think they can't do, in terms of where the no's are. And they try to avoid those instead of going for where the yeses are, going for the yes and.
I remember being in school, elementary school, and back in the 70s. 70s? Yeah, approximately. And I have ADHD. And back then it didn't exist. But the label didn't exist.
Right.
And teachers just said I was a problem child.
Yep.
That's how I was, quote, labeled.
Yep. I once had a teacher who ran an international creativity forum online. Like, she would have people on, me included, for individual interviews, and then run a forum where we'd all be on panels in addition to that. And my first year, I was on that for several years, and my first year of interviewing with her, she's a teacher. And she said, I really like what you're sharing, but as a teacher, I don't have time for the spontaneously brilliant idea of every kid, while I'm trying to teach this thing. She said, what if I'm if I'm trying to teach kids to write a paper, and I've got this one little guy who, just can't sit still, and the only thing he cares about is leaves and dirt. She's like, I can't stop teaching kids to write, how to write a cohesive paper in the 5th grade and stop for his oration on leaves and dirt. And I'm like, well, but you can embrace it. You can yes and it. You can say, okay, little Sammy, you love leaves and dirt. And we all want to learn about leaves and dirt. And the reason we're writing these papers is so that each of us can communicate clearly about how we want to share our thing that we're as passionate about as you are about leaves and dirt. But I get that you're a little frustrated with this process of writing. So I'm going to say to you, okay, you have 1 week to figure out how you can teach us all about leaves and dirt, and do it with a PowerPoint presentation, or take a bunch of pictures and bring them in. And, and then when you create a PowerPoint, you're going to teach us all how to create a PowerPoint.
Yeah.
And so I'm like, and she sat there for a minute. I'm like, it doesn't have to be exactly what I just said. It's the yes and moment. When the kid is, I had a kid, I taught at a charter school for a semester where they just brought me in they like sought me out and went, can you teach a class on creativity? And I was like, yeah, what do you mean by that? And they're like, we don't know, but we figure you do. So we're going to give you these 7th and 8th graders. And so I was teaching, I think I taught 2 or 3 classes in a row, different groups of kids. These kids thought they were signed up for something other than that, when they came, but it was a charter school. So there's a lot of experimentation going on. And so they walked into the class and it was like, who's this lady and what's going on? And all of a sudden I had them improvising and doing acting exercises and doing writing things, but mostly it was a lot of imagination, spontaneity, improvisation. And one day I had them doing all these crazy exercises, and we were all sitting on the floor after one long exercise that was pretty, it was pretty out there. And so all the kids are sitting on the floor, all scattered all over the room. And we're talking about what their reaction to it was. And this one really cool kid, really cool kid. I mean, this kid was so put together and, just had it going on and did not like looking like he didn't know what, he didn't want to be like up in an improvisation because it might go wrong, right? He didn't like any of that stuff. So because he knew that I was going to ask every single person what their reaction to it was, he set out to like cut that off. And so all of a sudden we're talking about something else. I'm looking somewhere else. And over here, he leans back, throws his head back and goes, I'm so bored. And I'm sure he thought that was just going to really confound the situation. And instead I turned to him and I went, honey, if you are bored, that is your soul calling you out. Don't ever be bored in your life. Make an offer. Don't just block your happiness by saying you're bored. That's not an acceptable thing to be. And he went, and I turned it around and went, so everybody, let's help Sammy make some offers. Let's help him, figure out what could he do that would be an offer? What's he trying to do by saying that he's bored? And they're like, he's blocking. And I'm like, really? Why do you think that's blocking? And we just turned it into this big discussion. And not only did he never say he was bored again, but, we just incorporated it into it. And he became fabulous at he was probably by the end when we did the big, like presentation of the kinds of things that we did, he was probably one of the most eager students to demonstrate to the parents and the teachers, but he was also really like one of the people that was sort of helping his compatriots,
Mhm.
the most. And he looked like somebody who was going to be a pain the whole way through when it started, but no, he just embraced it once he found out that, sort of that pushing away. My rule in class with adults in colleges where they're worried about their A, or kids in a class where they're trying to be cool, my rule is always just try. That's all I'm asking. That's all you have to do to have an A. Just try everything as best you can. And if it doesn't work, it doesn't work, but try.
You don't try, you never know.
Right. Right. And, going back to that Edison thing that you said, it's there. I think it's maybe Ford or Edison, one of the two, that said there's no such thing as failure, only feedback.
Mhm.
And that's true. That's true. There isn't anything saying no. The universe never blocks. Now, other people might be trying to block something consciously or unconsciously. That's okay. You can yes and it. You can, okay, got that. And here's my offer back to that, whether it's a block or an offer, it doesn't matter. Treat their block as an offer and you'll diffuse the situation.
So you can help people unblock.
Definitely. Definitely. That's what I do. And it's so much fun. I walk into a room of CEOs and one of the first questions I will ask people is I'll say, raise your hand if you've ever had to stop and think. And inevitably everybody's hand goes up because that's, of course,
Sure.
we all go, wait, let me think about that for a second. And I will say, okay, no, you didn't. Nobody has to stop and think. Human beings think faster than we can even perceive. I mean, a conservative thought of how many thoughts we have in a day is 20,000 thoughts, maybe as many as 600,000 thoughts if you count every, recognition of an itch, etc. Right? But if there are 20,000 thoughts, even if there are, let's say, 6,000 thoughts in a day, which is the most conservative actionable thought count I've ever
Sure.
heard. Out of 6,000 thoughts in a day, don't you think it's possible that one of them is brilliant? That one of them is major cool?
Oh,
And
absolutely.
and what we do that we think is stopping to think, it isn't. It's stopping to censor, it's stopping to judge, it's stopping to decide which one is the best idea. And that's what I help people do, is recognize and express that spontaneous impulse, that spontaneous thought, and really recognize their passion and step into it rather than step back from it. Nobody is meant to be in the background of somebody else's life. We're
No.
all meant to be center stage in our own life. We are here to play this role. We are writing this story, and we're meant to be full out in the light, doing whatever it is we came here to do, not watching other people do it.
Now I have a question.
Yes.
And by no means am I looking to bash teachers, school systems, etc. But is it possible that school systems are stifling the creativity?
I have a whole chapter in spontaneous brilliance about an entire chapter.
And no, and for those wondering, I haven't read the book yet. So
I start the book with the Einstein myth, and the Einstein metaphor that everyone is brilliant, but if you ask a fish to climb a tree, it'll spend its entire life thinking it's stupid. So I extend that. Okay, the monkeys, the well-meaning monkeys realize that they're super happy and they're super excited and they climb trees and they swing from tree to tree. And so they think, okay, I'll help the other monkeys get as fast as me. And then they create this whole training program for being fast and swinging through the trees, because that's what is genius in a monkey. And then they think, oh, we're so happy. We're so successful. We're so brilliant. Everything is getting better about everybody's monkeyness. So let's share that with these other animals. So then they start trying to teach the giraffe and the lion and the bird and the fish to climb the tree and swing from the trees. And when those birds and fish and giraffes can't do it the way the system is set up, they end up thinking, the well-meaning monkeys think there's something wrong with those animals instead of there's something wrong with the system. They think that the animals aren't fitting into the system rather than the system doesn't fit the animal. And we have this really boxed in picture of what growth and learning and education is. And we have a very boxed in picture of genius. But Einstein's name is literally synonymous with genius. When we call somebody an Einstein, we're calling them a genius, right? But we're calling them a particular kind of genius. And isn't it ironic that the man whose name is literally synonymous with genius is the one who is attributed with the quote that everyone is a genius, but asking a fish to climb a tree will make it spend its whole life thinking it's stupid. That's what's wrong with the education system. We are not, I teach teachers to teach all the time. We are not thinking, our job as educators is to provide students with the tools they need to express their unique creative genius, not to decide whether or not they have any.
Well, because one of the things I was thinking, sorry for interrupting, is that people learn either through writing, hearing, or doing.
Mm-hmm.
There's probably a fourth one, which I don't remember. Maybe seeing. I'm not sure if I said that or yet. But I found when I was going through school, and I had a hard time going through school. As a matter of fact, it was so hard that my parents put me in a prep school where the graduating class was 25. So the student-teacher ratio was 8-1, where I learned a lot better.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Because we need to allow students to learn how they learn, not punish them for not learning how we want to teach. And so much of our education system now is about teaching kids to get through the test. So all that they're doing, I have one daughter, two of my daughters that I adopted from foster care have fetal alcohol syndrome, which has a lot of manifestations, but one of which is some real frontal lobe issues, particularly with abstract reasoning. And one of my daughters has an interesting thing where the human brain is only supposed to be a maximum of 5 IQ points different from one side of the brain to the other. And hers are 20 points apart, the two sides of her brain. And so she understands any kind of pattern coming in, right? She grabs the pattern, she can do the pattern. If you ask her to take that into some kind of abstraction, nothing. She's got no idea how to do it. I adopted her when she was 9. She's 28 now. And she's been through all kinds of challenges, but I mean, this girl is astounding. If you show her a phone number once, she's got it. We were actually behind a hit and run accident the other night, right? Where a pedestrian was literally hit. in the street. And the car stopped, you know, obviously there was a girl in front of it. The car was stopped. The traffic around us was stopped. We were right behind the car that hit her. Andy is my daughter's name. Andy stepped out. She's also a nursing student and a caregiver. And so she like stepped out of the car and was going to go up and help. But this girl's friends like picked her up and got her out of the street. So it was like a 5-lane, you know, fast.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And the other street, the cross street at this intersection was just as populated, and it was nighttime and lots of people. And so they got her out of the street before the ambulance even got there. And so we were trying to clear the traffic, and Andy got out of the car and went over to help them on the sidewalk. And I said, I'll get back to you, you know, and the car that had hit her pulled up and pulled off to the side on the other side of the intersection. And I went on, and it took me several minutes to figure out how to get back. Well, the car had eventually driven away that had hit her.
Horrible.
And the only person who could tell the police the license number was Andy. And this is the same person who's like, when she gets back in my car, she's covered in blood from the girl, you know, because she was literally helping, right? She's like, I'm sorry, Mom, I've got blood on me. You know, I won't touch anything, you know, and I'm like, no, you're okay. But, you know, she saw that. And we so often, we wouldn't look at that as genius, right?
Sure.
This is a girl who was supposed to be, and she could, my point originally was she could learn so much stuff in school to always get A's on the test. She could regurgitate that information, but then if you asked her about it later, she didn't really learn any application of that information. She had no idea.
And I'd say that's most people.
Yeah. Yeah. But she's brilliant at, you show her a bunch of information, you give her a list of stuff for the test, boom, she's got an A on that test. Does she know what she's supposed to do with that knowledge? No. It's not really knowledge. It's just
information.
Yeah. 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 And it took a long time for her to really identify and have faith in what she's super good at. You know, she's an amazing caregiver. She's super aware of what other people are thinking and feeling in a moment and adapting to that. You know, but she had terrible troubles in school, mostly behaviorally.
And my next statement is, I'll say, in my opinion only, so people don't get offended, which I know I can do quite easily. When I was in the corporate world, everybody was saying, oh, Jeff, you need to get this certification, that certification, this certification. I always said no. There's nothing, granted, if you're into certifications, no problem. But from my perspective, I always found certifications to be a memorization test for the people, and the only thing it's good for is for the companies that give them to make them money. Because, and for my example, I'll take a PMP, a project management profession, which is what they want me to take. And a lot of companies, that's what they write in their job descriptions. Oh, you have to have a PMP certification. You have to have this certification, only to find out that the company doesn't practice the principles of the certification that they want you to get.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, isn't it interesting now that, you know, AI can pass the bar in any state, you know? And so it's not about whether or not you can fill out that test. It's whether or not you can
apply the information.
Pardon me?
Apply the information that you learned.
And really engage with the other human beings around you. and innovate, and I think more than anything else, what I teach leaders is how to leverage the brilliance of the people around them, not how to think, okay, they have to be the most brilliant one in the room. The minute that you realize that this is a collaborative effort and that everything will get better if you allow everyone to share their ideas, and then you build on those ideas. The janitor in a giant corporation might know more about how to create more efficient processes than anybody else because they've been watching and they see the waste that goes on, literally and figuratively. They understand the fundamentals of what is really going on in this process because nobody's paying any attention to them, and they're literally able to observe. The leader that asks them what they think is liable to get a huge injection of creative problem solving into their process. But
they would never answer the question.
Right. Don't even know their name. Don't incorporate them as part of the team.
Well, and it's funny you should mention it. And I'm not saying this to brag, but I've got my background's in telecommunications, and I have a double master's in it. I worked for a telecom company. Nobody would ever promote me. The reason being is they always thought I was after their job. Nobody even asked, but I wouldn't want their job.
Right. But if you are offering all the time, right, and you're going, and did you know that, and this would be possible, and let's do this, and things are happening, there's a lot of energy coming from there. That can be threatening to people that have learned to, as blocking as a safety mechanism, as a protective mechanism. Our ego, bless its little heart, we all have an ego, and we think that ego is a pejorative, that it's a bad thing to have an ego. We all have one. And I love what Dr. Sue Morter calls the ego. She calls it the protective personality. And I love that. And so when we recognize that our ego is just trying to protect this human being here, this role that we're playing, this character, right? It's just trying to protect it and keep it consistent. That the ego is involved in survival.
Oh, so I wasn't working for Machiavelli. It was just their ego.
And it's our ego too. Everybody's got one. And it's stopping to notice whether, like I say in Spontaneous Brilliance, that most of us, that we detach, or we think of our two selves as being separate. That player and that character we see as separate things. In other words, the soul and the human being, we see those as separate things. We live our lives as though when we die, we'll reconnect with our soul and see what it thinks about what we did, and to me, that's like an airplane thinking that it's flying itself and the pilot's just along for the ride.
So I'll say, from a Star Trek perspective, we're basically a symbiont.
I mean, I like to think of it as the player never loses their uber role in this process. The ego gets engaged in protecting this, and then we think that we are in control. And we've even set up huge systems in this world to think that we're going to be judged on how we dealt with that control after our life, right? That it's like this game that we can be tricked in, we can make a mistake and get judged afterwards for how well we did or didn't do this. And that's not what it's about. The universe wants us to be in joy, wants us to be in success, wants us to be in a very successful improv, and wants our character to come to full fruition. So our job here is to thank that protective personality, because God bless it, it's doing a great job, and it has done a great job. It's kept us alive to this point, right? But then there are times when we have to say, it's okay, I got this, and really hook up to our intuition, hook up to our higher self. And what is it that we really want or desire to be doing in this life? And I just guarantee you, for none of us is it sitting on the couch eating Cheetos, watching somebody else have an exciting life. And we need to be careful of that with all the proliferation of all the media outlets and everything. We can see into, we think we know Elon Musk and Cardi B and what their actual lives are like. We don't know them. We don't. And their life is not our responsibility. And us sitting on the couch with our friends talking about whether or not they're living their lives right is allowing us to block our own life, to not live it full out, to not be present. If we're worried about what they're doing, what are we doing about it? I have a dear beloved in my life who loves to talk about the headlines and loves to, I'll walk into the room and he'll go, what do you think about this? What do you think about this? What do you think about this? And if he's got something that's really frustrating, the first thing I say to him is, so is it something you want to do something about? Or are we just talking about this? It's like, if we're just talking about it, I think we've pretty much talked about it. If you feel that strongly about it, are you going to get up out of your chair and go do something? Or is that not yours to do? If it's yours, great, do something. If it's not yours to do, let it go. Do what is yours to do.
Well, with that being said, let's wrap this up. This has been amazing. We could probably talk for hours because I'm like the world's biggest conspiracy theorist, and this conversation could easily take that route. So how do people get in touch with you?
Well, my website is super easy, sandrakavanagh.com. And there are links to everything there, but you can find me on social media. You can find me on YouTube. Spontaneous Brilliance is the name of the YouTube channel, and the name of the book, and the name of my company. And the book is available on Amazon and Barnes and Noble.
And all this information will be in the comment section of YouTube, Facebook, LinkedIn, so people will have that, so you don't have to jot all that down.
Yeah, write it down really fast.
Yeah. Unless you know shorthand, which I'm not even sure they even teach anymore. So with that being said, guys,
I do just want to say one more thing, Jeff. On my website, it says that you can just schedule an appointment with me. I really, really mean that. It's not like it's hard to get to me. I want to have a discovery conversation with anybody who wants to have one with me. So do click on that little button and get on my calendar, because I'd love to meet anyone who wants to talk about this.
Well, with that being said, everybody, there's your offer. So until next week, thank you very much. I'm Jeff K., founder of My Digital Memories. We preserve, protect, and organize your precious memories, which include your photographs, negatives, videotapes, home movies, records, and cassette tapes. These can be stored for today and future generations. After our parents died, my sister and I were cleaning out their home, and we came across boxes of photos that we wanted and our kids wanted. I knew I had to digitize all these paper photographs, slides, and negatives so they could be shared with family and friends. In my digital memories, we take your photos and most types of media and digitize them. We're able to restore photographs and remove unwanted scratches or blemishes. We also digitize home movies. We deliver the end product into any type of storage imaginable, whether it's on a USB thumb drive, a DVD, or storage in the cloud. We make it easier for you to share your digital memories with family and friends. Were you aware your family memories, paper photographs, and other media were only designed to last a maximum of 20 years in a climate-controlled environment? People care about their memories, genealogy, and where they come from. My client Sally gave me countless VHS tapes and had no idea of the treasure she was about to find. She heard her father's voice for the first time. Her father died in Vietnam and she never met him. She broke down in tears and was extremely grateful. Let's always remember our pets, our furry friends who are loyal to the end. Please contact me to preserve what is most valuable in your life for today and future generations. You are never forgotten with my digital memories.